Many people search for tips and tricks on perfecting their Dead Cells gameplay. The roguelike game is notoriously difficult, boasting features such as semi-permanent death, procedurally generated levels, and difficult bosses, which can all be quite the handful. Get it? 'Cause Hand of the King? However, there are some lesser-known mechanics that can make or break your runs. After listening to my pointers and tips, you could be reaching the Hand of the King in the majority of your runs. I'm PsySlik, and today I will be showing you how to optimize your runs in Dead Cells. Technique 1. The Bloodborne mechanic. In Dead Cells, like most games, reaching 0 HP means your run is over and you lose all of your items, cells, and gold. Therefore, every bit of HP you can save increases your chances of beating the final boss. The orange bar that appears after you've taken damage is what some call the Bloodborne bar, on account of the game Bloodborne having the same health recovery mechanic. After you take damage, the orange bar indicates how much health you can recover. By dealing out damage to enemies, you can turn the orange bar into green segments. For example, if you take damage from an enemy, you can quickly defeat that enemy to recover a large portion of your lost HP. Using this mechanic to its maximum potential will save your health bar from depleting much faster. Something to keep in mind is that every shield in the game reduces a large percentage of damage taken as it's being held up. It's better to have a shield up if you're not fully sure you can avoid taking damage in the scenario. Technique 2. Rolling and parrying. As I mentioned in the previous section, it's better to have a shield up than take 100% damage from any enemy. But always relying on parrying can put you into some problematic situations. That's where the rolling mechanic comes in. Parrying is more rewarding than rolling, but that's because it comes with the price of increased risk. Missing a parry can result in taking the full amount of damage from an attack, while rolling moves your position out of danger as well as gives you iframes or invincibility frames. Knowing when to roll and when to parry is largely based on your playstyle and which enemies you are most comfortable with parrying. This doesn't mean you should always roll against bigger enemies though. Take the time to try a few practice runs on the lowest boss cell difficulty and practice parrying the enemies you most struggle with. For me, it's those turtle guys found in the ossuary. I can parry most enemies in the games reliably, but the turtles are annoyingly slow. Technique 3. Maximizing your build's potential. There are many builds available to the player in Dead Cells. A build is a specific combination of prioritizing certain stat combinations. The most common builds are full brutality, full survival, full tactics, half brutality, half survival, half tactics, half brutality, half survival, half tactics, and balance builds, which are approximately equal in each stat. To maximize how effective your build is, you will want to pay close attention to each and every item you have. Later in the game, you can find items that boost stats just by having them. There are also different stat combos with each item in the game. For example, the symmetrical lance is split between receiving a boost from the brutality stat and the survival stat. This means that the most effective builds to maximize this item are full brutality, full survival, and half brute, half survival. Knowing and understanding each item's stat combo will impact your run greatly. Although it is fun to experiment with new items, you should always be prioritizing a build, and therefore using items that work best with that build. There is an exception to the stat combo rule, however. Gold and gray items will use your highest stat as their boost. This means that any full stat build will be extremely effective for boosting the item's power. However, gold and gray items are least effective in balanced builds. If I have 3 points in each stat, the weapon will only receive a stat boost of 3. If I have 7 points in tactics instead, that gold or gray item will use the 7 points as its booster. Half and half builds are somewhat effective and aren't the best way to use these items, but certainly aren't the worst. If I have 4 points in brutality, 4 points in survival, and 1 point in tactics, the item will use 4 points for its booster, but only from one stat. Maximizing your build with your items, no matter what build you choose, is the key to success. Technique 4. Synergies. As you progress through the game, you will find items that have additional effects besides simply dealing damage. Each item can have an almost unlimited combination of these effects, but using effects of 2 or more items together to boost overall power is what's known as synergy. Taking advantage of these effects and combining them with other items is what changes runs from hopeless to final boss runs. There are hundreds of combinations of these effects, and some effects aren't as obvious as others. A common effect is emitting a toxic cloud after defeating an enemy. Although this doesn't sound very powerful on its own, using synergies will cause the effect to become the centerpiece in a powerful strategy. Let's say I have a broadsword with the emits a toxic cloud effect. I also have a grenade that deals 150% damage to poison enemies. As I approach a cluster of enemies, there are much more difficult enemies in the mix. Instead of running head-on and hoping I can manage to roll and parry every attack, I can use my item synergies to defeat the group of enemies without a problem. By defeating an enemy with my broadsword, a toxic cloud will be emitted. As the enemies walk into the toxic cloud, I can throw the grenade to deal an additional 50% damage, easily defeating most enemies and quickly finishing off the rest, using the toxic cloud to lower their health even further. Without even approaching the bulk of the enemies, I have used my item synergies to defeat them all, saving time, HP, and reducing risk of death. The example used is actually one of the weaker synergies, but combinations such as ice poison, fire ice, and bleeding burning can decimate the toughest of enemies. Using synergies will prove to be your most powerful strategy to beating the Hand of the King in Dead Cells. Dead Cells hosts many advanced mechanics that can make the final boss a breeze when you know how to use them. Although I have covered some of the most important techniques in this video, there are plenty of other, smaller strategies to make your run the best it can be. Be sure to watch the second half to this video for more advanced tips to conquer Dead Cells. If you enjoyed the video, leave a like so I know to create more content like this. If you have questions or just want to say hi, leave a comment. And for constant content like this, subscribe to my channel for notifications whenever I post a video. Thanks for watching. This doesn't mean you should always roll against bigger enemies, though. Take the time to try a few practice runs. Take the time to half survival, half tactics, and balance builds, which are approximately equal. To maximize how effective your build is, you will want to play. To maximize later in the game, you can find items that boost stats just by having them. There are also different stat combos with